My name is Myesha Johnson. I've been employed with Community Health Network for almost 6 years now. I love to bake. I enjoy game nights with family and friends, and I think the happiest I am is when I'm rooting on my boys at one of their sporting events. I've always listened to my healthcare providers when they say it's time to get a screening completed or, you need to make sure you do this. But when it came to colonoscopies, I didn't know a lot about them. But part of my job is I get to work with some amazing caregivers and physicians, and I lead work groups where we focus on process improvement work. And a lot of that is trying to get patients in for their preventive screenings. And so in our colorectal work group, we talk a lot about colonoscopies and how colon cancer is the only preventable cancer there is. And how is that? By getting your colonoscopy. But again, just knowing amazing physicians, that have shared just the importance of colonoscopies, I knew that I had to get a colonoscopy completed. So it is recommended that once you turn 45 that you start getting your colon cancer screenings completed. Unless you have some symptoms, sometimes blood in your stool or a family history, then sometimes your provider may suggest that you get one earlier than that. But if you are just, if you don't have any symptoms, 45 is the age to start getting those completed. There are some risk factors. So if you do have symptoms that you share with your healthcare provider, such as, blood in your stool, if you do have a family history of colon cancer, that's another one. Again, the reason why I am so thankful that I did have my colonoscopy completed is because 2 sessile serrated polyps were discovered. And so those polyps are ones that can lead to being cancerous. So had I have not gotten my colonoscopy completed, those polyps wouldn't have been discovered and removed. And so for me, I do have to go back every 5 years just as kind of a, safety check, just to make sure they don't return. So there are several different ways that you can prepare to have your colonoscopy completed. The most common one is the kind of Miralax Gatorade process, where you have to mix the Miralax in with a clear fluid. Most people, I think, do Gatorade. That's the most common one. But depending on your history and kind of your body, there are other preps that you also can do. And they do that because it's essential that you have your system as cleaned out as possible. So therefore, when they go in to do the scope, that they can see everything. So you want to ensure that everything is completely cleaned out so that they can detect any polyps if they're there or any abnormalities. It really isn't bad. Like personally speaking, it was absolutely worth it, because of the polyps were discovered. So the prep period, kind of beforehand, you'll get it scheduled. Someone call and talk to you. They'll go over, making sure that you need to pick up your prep kit by this day. You'll get clear instructions on when to start your prep and what that looks like. You'll have numbers to call if you have any questions about the prep. If things aren't going the way you feel they should be going, there's someone there that's available 24/7 to pretty much call. So you have to have someone drive you to and from your prep, your screening, and they have to stay there with you. So you have to make sure you have that, planned in advance as well. But the day of, they get you there, they take you back, they talk to you, about what's going to happen, and then they put you under. And then I feel like I remember. So she was like, "Oh, I like your glasses," and I said, "Thank you." And the next thing I know, I'm waking up in my room. So it felt like it was literally like I'm in conversation, and the next thing I know, I'm back in the room afterwards. So it really, it went really quickly. It really was nothing. There was no pain afterwards, no nausea, no discomfort. It was just allowing for the anesthesia to wear off. And then I was back to normal like a little later that day and back at work the next day, with no symptoms or no concerns or no reason to not be able to go back to my daily life. It was a really smooth process. I had no questions along the way because everyone just did such an amazing job of letting me know what to expect, when to expect it, and how the process was going to flow.